Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking a psychological reality that, honestly, almost all of us have seen in action, or probably even experienced ourselves. We're looking at exactly why some people simply cannot say no to a request. Literally, even when they're completely exhausted, totally overwhelmed, or just have zero interest in doing the thing. It is such a fascinating topic, mostly because what we're seeing on the surface completely masks what is actually happening underneath.
So let's just get real for a second and ask ourselves a totally honest question. Have you ever fallen into the trap of agreeing to something while your mind is just screaming the exact opposite? You know the feeling. You smile, you nod, you take on that extra project, or you agree to go to that social outing, but inside, you are absolutely dreading it. If you've been there, you know for sure how draining it is. But to really understand why we do this, we've got to look past the basic assumption that we're just trying to be helpful.
It's a wild contrast when you think about it. Society totally rewards extreme kindness and politeness, right? We call these folks nice or team players. But, well, psychology tells a very different story on the flip side. This inability to say no isn't always rooted in pure, selfless generosity. Actually, scratch that. It's really a deeply ingrained defense mechanism. It's a complex survival strategy that's built to protect a person from this profound, deep-seated fear of feeling replaceable.
Section 1. The Illusion of Nice, Uncovering the Identity Threat.
You see, for people trapped in this exhausting cycle, their entire self-worth becomes dangerously tied to being the helpful one. Their value just doesn't feel internal, it feels highly conditional. They operate under this heavy belief that they have to constantly earn their place, whether that's in a friendship, a family dynamic, or at work. They really don't feel like they naturally belong just by being themselves. And because of this, every single request feels like a high-stakes test of their worthiness. Saying no isn't just declining a favor. It literally feels like they're risking their entire value in that person's eyes.
Section 2. Fear of being replaceable. The anxiety of predicting loss.
Okay, so this kind of mind operates in a state of constant hypervigilance. They're terrified that setting a boundary will make others just pack up, leave, and find someone better. Just notice this cognitive cascade here. Step 1, a completely simple request comes in. Step 2, the brain instantly treats a basic boundary like a massive threat to the relationship. The brain literally says, if I don't do this, they're going to leave. So they arrive at step 3, compliance. And it's not out of a desire to help, but simply to stay safe. A mundane, everyday question turns into an existential threat to their connection with you. Crazy, right?
To really grasp how they manage all this constant anxiety, we've got to talk about this psychological concept called high self-monitoring. This completely explains why they are constantly watching their own behavior, micromanaging their words, their tone, everything. They are absolutely terrified of the social fallout, the awkwardness, or the tension that a rejection might create in the room. They're calculating every single move to ensure smooth sailing, even if it comes entirely at their own expense.
And this brings us to a really crucial point, captured perfectly in this core psychological finding. They're effectively choosing others' comfort to escape their own anxiety. Wow. So they're prioritizing someone else's ease strictly to avoid the temporary judgment or awkwardness that comes with standing their ground. At the end of the day, it's an anxiety avoidance strategy disguised as a favor.
Section 3. The Shield of Silence, Hiding Needs to Stay Safe.
Let's peel back another layer of the iceberg. Just look at the real-world cost of this mindset. They say, oh, it's fine, when they're actually drowning. They bite their tongue to completely avoid conflict. They desperately try to become what psychology calls easy to keep, hoping that by never being a burden, they'll be harder to lose. But here's the tragic irony. By erasing their own needs, they risk being overlooked entirely. They would literally rather internalize massive amounts of stress than risk any external conflict.
Section 4. Roots of the behavior, where the pattern begins. Now, if you're seeing yourself or maybe someone you love in this behavior, please know this isn't just some random weakness. It is a deeply learned pattern. Growing up in an environment where your feelings were ignored, dismissed, or constantly compared to others, that creates what's called an insecure attachment style. The brain learns that its own needs simply aren't important, and that the only way to feel secure is to prioritize what everyone else expects. Basically, they were trained to tune out their own inner voice just to survive socially.
Just look at the stark daily reality of that kind of upbringing. On one hand, individuals who are wired for internal validation make choices based on their own personal compass. But on the other hand, we see the folks who just can't say no because their early environment didn't nurture that inner compass. They rely heavily on external validation to feel complete. They just haven't built the tolerance for the discomfort of someone else being temporarily unhappy with them.
Section 5. Reclaiming your value, turning no into a choice.
We've spent a lot of time in the depths of why this happens, so let's head back up to the surface. If you take away just one single thing from this explainer today, please let it be this. Your value is not something you have to earn. It's just not. It is not tied to your utility or how many favors you can knock out for people. And once you truly internalize this absolute game changer of a truth, a massive shift happens. The word no completely stops feeling like this terrifying threat of abandonment, and finally, it starts feeling like a healthy personal choice.
You know, as the psychology points out, once you start seeing these patterns, you truly won't be able to unsee them. Thank you so much for exploring this fascinating topic with me. Keep reflecting on these deep psychological drivers in your own life, because truly understanding your own mind is always the first real step toward meaningful change. So, I'm going to leave you with this final thought. The next time your brain tells you to say yes when your body is absolutely screaming no, how will you choose to respond?